Chapter 49. The Dark One Stirs. Rand awoke at dawn with a start. Even so early, the heat already covered the land like a blanket. He recalled the conversation he'd overheard and saw Nynaeve's red-rimmed eyes. She'd obviously not slept, and Lan's face was hard as ever. Egwene crouched by the wisdom in concern. Rand could not hear what was said, but Nynaeve shook her head. After a few minutes of them talking, Nynaeve laughed, then hugged Egwene. When the younger girl stood, she glared at Lan, who didn't seem to notice. He was too intent at not looking at Nynaeve. It was disconcerting to have the camp disappear when they went to the horses, but as they settled off, the hill winked back into existence. The 7 towers stood clear in the morning light, distant broken stumps that merely hinted at past grandeur, and the 100 lakes that lay still and calm. Lan avoided looking at them as much as Nynaeve, without seeming to make an effort of it. Before they left, Moraine stood atop the hill, eyes closed, and although nothing seemed to happen to Rand's view, Nynaeve and Egwene shivered despite the heat. They rubbed their arms, and Egwene froze, watching the wisdom. They shared a look and then a smile, though Nynaeve's was half-hearted. Rand was sure there was something in that exchange he felt he should understand, but the feeling vanished before he could. Mat asked what they were waiting for. He had his bow across his saddle, an arrow nocked in readiness. Moraine told him she was moving any vestiges of her wards. Normally they would dissipate in a day, but she will not take the chance. They are too close and the shadow is too strong here. Lan led them north toward the Mountains of Doom. Even in the light they were black and lifeless, stretching east and west as far as could be seen. Egwene asked the Aes Sedai if they would reach the Eye today, and after sharing a look with Loyal, Moraine told her, "I hope that we will. When I found it before, it was just on the other side of the mountains, at the foot of the high passes. Mat asked what happens if it's not where they expect. Loyal had told them it moves. Moraine told him they will continue to hunt. The Green Man sent his need, and there is no greater need than theirs. Their need is the hope of the world." As the mountains drew nearer, the true blight emerged, the foliage breaking wetly from the branches, breaking apart under its own corruption. The trees were tortured things with twisted branches clawing at the sky. Ooze slid down the cracked bark as if nothing lay solid within, and trembled as they passed. Mat was nervous as he said it looked as if they were going to grab at them, earning a scornful look from Nynaeve. Moraine told him that they do want to, but they don't want anything to do with her. Her presence protects them. Mat laughed as if he thought it was a joke, but Rand wasn't so sure. It was the blight after all, he thought. But trees don't move. She's just trying to keep them alert. Abruptly, a tree to his left, not 20 paces away, trembled, then suddenly whipped back and forth, flailing at the ground. A creature screamed, and the tree snapped it up, limbs entwining its prey. The trees on either side began to tremble, and all their horses shied away into a knot of horseflesh. Lan drew his sword and told them to keep moving and stay with Moraine. He pulled Mandab around and rode further into the blight. Moraine urged them to stay close as a roar sprang up from the direction of the warder. The trees quivered as the roar came again, full of rage and death. Nynaeve worried for Lan as the screams turned to one of fear, then cut off. Moraine told her that Lan can look after himself. They must ride. The warder burst out of the trees, holding his sword away from him, covered in steaming black blood. He carefully wiped it with a rag and examined the steel to make sure it was completely clean, and when he dropped the rag it disintegrated. Silently, a massive beast leapt out of the trees at them, and Lan spun Mandab, but before he could act, Mat's arrow took it in its single eye. Its head was mostly mouth and teeth, covered in stiff bristles, and had too many legs for its bear-like body. Lan complimented Mat's shooting as he searched the tree line for more attacks. Moraine shook her head and said it should not have been willing to come so close to one who touched the true source. Lan said that Agamar had warned that the blight stirred. Perhaps it knows that a web is forming in the pattern. Moraine insisted they must hurry to the high passes, but as she spoke the trees whipped toward them, also not caring if Moraine touched the true source. Rand found he'd unsheathed his sword, striking out at the branches. He almost thought he could hear them scream, but still they came. Teeth bared, he tried to seek the void and screamed his war cry of "Manatharin!" Mat stood in his stirrups, launching arrow after arrow at deformed figures within the trees, screaming,
"Karayan Kaltazar! Karayan Alessander! Alessander! Modero Dagan! Pastuente Kubia! Alalessande!"
Perrin took the lead, silent and grim as he hacked with his axe through wood and flesh, creating a path forward. Fireballs streaked from Moraine's hands, burning trees, and the beasts she hit clawed at their own bodies. Lan repeatedly disappeared into the forest, emerging each time with his sword bloodied, but also wounded with more cuts on Mandab and himself. The Aes Sedai paused to heal him, then he would go off again. Moraine complained that she was lighting signal fires for the half-men. They must move quickly. Rand was sure that if the trees hadn't battled the creatures as much as the group, they would have been overwhelmed. They rode on, then a distant and thin cry rose behind them. In an instant the snarls of all the other beasts cut off, then vanished into the trees. The cry came again, then was answered by a chorus of more, further behind it. Grimly, Lan told them,
"Worms. They've given us a brief respite, if we have time to use it. Few things in a blight will face a worm. Can it be avoided? Ride!"
He kicked Mandarb's flanks and the group galloped after him. Mat was incredulous that they were scared off by a worm. Lan told him that a worm can kill a Fade, and they have an entire pack of them on their trail. With the pace Lan was setting, Rand estimated it would be an hour before they reached the mountains. Egwene asked if the worms would follow them into the mountains, making Lan bark a laugh. Loyal told them that worms are afraid of what waits in the high passes, and Rand wished that Loyal would stop telling them of the worst that was yet to come. The blight flowed past, the trees not even twitching now, and the mountains of doom filled the sky ahead. The cries and sounds of pursuit grew closer, and Lan cried that they weren't going to make it. He told Moraine to watch herself in the high passes, intending to hold off the worms. Nynaeve cried for him not to do it, and Moraine told them that he cannot stop a worm pack. He will not go. She will need him at the eye. Mat suggested shooting them, but Lan said that worms would not even feel the arrows. They must be hacked to pieces. They only feel hunger, and sometimes fear. Rand clung to the saddle as the horses climbed, his chest tight with tension. The blight was turning into foothills, and he saw the twisting path route they must follow. Light, he thought. What can be ahead that would scare what is behind? He'd never been so afraid and didn't want to go any further. He sought the void and chided himself for his cowardness. He can't stay here and leave Egwene to face what's ahead alone. The void kept eluding him. Each time the void shattered, its points of light burnt into his bones until he quivered in pain. Light, help me, I can't go on. Light, help me, he thought. He was prepared to turn red and face the worms, when the nature of the land changed. Between one crest and the next the blight was gone. Green leaves covered peaceful branches, and wild flowers made a carpet. A sweet spring breeze stirred them, and butterflies flitted from each blossom, along with bees, and birdsong filled his ears. He kept galloping until he realized the others had stopped, and he drew rein in astonishment. Moraine told them that they were safe. This is the realm of the Green Man, where the eye of the world lies. Nothing of the blight can enter here. Rand mumbled about it being on the other side of the high passes, and was answered by a deep voice.
"This place is always where it is. All that changes is where those who need it are."
A figure larger than Loyal stepped out of the trees. A man-like shape of woven vines and leaves, green and still growing. His hair was grass flowing to his shoulders. His huge eyes were hazelnuts, and his fingernails were acorns. His clothes were made of green leaves, and boots were made of bark, butterflies swirling all around him. One thing marred him. A deep fissure of withered brown ran from his cheek, across his temple and up into his head. Egwene whispered that it was the Green Man, and he smiled, making the birds sing louder. He told her of course he was. Who else would be here? Then he noticed Loyal.
"It is good to see you, little brother. In the past, many of you came to visit me, but few of recent days."
Loyal dismounted and bowed.
"You honor me, tree brother. Zingu makushi te ingshin."
The Green Man put his arm around Loyal's shoulder, making the Ogier look like a boy. He told Loyal they will sing tree songs together, and remember the great trees and the steading, and hold the longing at bay. He studied the rest of the group, and when he saw Perrin his eyes lit up.
"A wolf, brother. Do the old times truly walk again then?"
Perrin said nothing, and avoided looking at the Green Man. Turning to Rand, he said,
"Strange clothes you wear, child of the dragon. Has the wheel turned so far? Do the people of the dragon return to the first covenant? But you wear a sword. That is neither now nor then."
Rand told him he doesn't understand, and the Green Man touched his scar, looking confused for a moment. He told them that he cannot say. His memories are torn and often fleeting. He welcomed them, but expressed surprise that Moraine had found him twice. It has never happened before. She told him that her need is the world's need. They have come to see the eye of the world. The Green Man sighed and told them that it has come again. That memory remains whole. The Dark One stirs, and every turning of the years it becomes harder to hold the blight at bay. If they follow, he will take them to it.
Thanks for listening. Please like, share and subscribe and help get a new channel off the ground. Thank you.